right, philosophy. I want to note here, if this is uploaded around a whole bunch of videos with snow in them or something like that, the reason for this is that I'm currently doing a series in philosophy that I don't want to just slide in a random video in the middle of it. And this isn't really the most important video anyways. So I think that, anyway, I'm just going to make this, and at some point when I have nothing to upload, I'm just going to toss it in. So yeah, this will probably be seen like months after it's made, but whatever. This series is not at all connected to the date. That said, if I uploaded a news episode late, that would be Bad News Bears. But I'm not going to do that if I can help it. All right. So my question here for this philosophy is whether or not facts can be racist and sexist and homophobic and all that, and whether or not it matters if they are, if they can be, if they are. Because I'm wondering more kind of in the context of a debate or of a court of law or something like that, or maybe in the making of a law, if a statistic is found, even if it's definitely provably true, should it be considered differently? Maybe not more, maybe more, maybe less, but just should it be considered differently if it is provably racist or sexist? So, hypothetical situation, this of course hasn't been proven, but if it were to be proved that, I don't know, we'll say women are worse drivers. That's always been a bar between husbands and wives, as far as I've been able to tell. The guy says, oh, don't trust your mother, she's a horrible driver, because, women are bad drivers. God, that was an awful example. All right, well, anyways, in that situation, if you proved, like, I don't know, women are 65% more likely to get into accidents, even neutral of other factors. And if we were to say, the question here, though, is that a sexist fact? If it is proven definitively that in this way women are worse at something than men, I suppose, using a very loose definition of sexist, you could say it's sexist. My problem comes in at, I guess, even if we're going to call it sexist, which we don't have to, but I think the problem isn't so much whether or not it's sexist, it's whether or not if a fact is sexist, it should be treated differently. So what I'm wondering is, of course, I'm not saying that if that fact is proven and we say that is a sexist fact, we can't then ignore it, but do we just let those who wish to label it sexist and move on, or do we talk about it differently? Is it less valid because of its sexism? God, I am really glad that the human race doesn't actually, that biological species concept doesn't actually apply to the human race. That's the whole under the skin, we're basically all the same thing. Well, no, biological species would say that we're not, but that doesn't work because humans, whatever. I'm glad that doesn't function on humans, because, oh my God, this would be a much bigger issue. But I guess one realistic example of this to help consider it, aside from the women are worse drivers thing, which, honestly, I don't think a study's ever going to get funded. So, aside from the fact that it doesn't need to be proven, because it's probably not true, even if it is, it's best just left alone. But there is one fact that a lot of people like to bring up, and that's the whole women in the military thing. Now, I don't think many people actually object to the idea of women in the military, at least not on a large scale. I think, though, one fact or statistic which I brought up, is that It's like, I think it's like a third less, like when there's at least 2 women or something inside of a, I don't know, battle group or whatever, when it's like, you know, the team, it's like 8, 10, 12 people, something like that. When there's at least 2 in that team or whatever, they're like a third less effective or something, or focused or something like that. And then, of course, people want to draw it as a direct relation. And then I've heard other people say that, like, you know, intersex groups also have, like, way higher morale and stuff like that to counterbalance them. And they're less likely to, like, freak out in the heat of battle. Anyways, women, that is. But that one might be unsubstantiated, but I'm pretty sure, looking up the whole higher morale thing and finding out it was decent. Whatever. But do we need to treat, if assuming that whole 1/3 less effective thing is true, do we then need to treat that fact, if we label it sexist, do we then need to treat it differently? Do we need to, well, we can't say it's invalid, but do we say it's less valid than something which would better suggest equality between the sexes? And is that true purely because we want it to be? This is a hard thing to talk about. Because on the one hand, you might be saying, like, no, it's a fact. We can't ignore facts. We have to treat them as pure factual evidence. On the other hand, since people are always gonna have a region of error, and there's always going to be problems, and people are always going to interpret research differently, like the whole vaccines cause autism thing. Whatever you say about that, the original case, as I understand it, was just, well, aside from the fact that it was bad science, it was also interpreted really badly. It was a bad study that was done that barely suggested the possibility of something, and then people just went with it. All right. So, given that people are always going to make things up, I don't know if we need to treat... I don't know. I think that we should probably treat it the same, but we should always keep aware of bias, I guess. All right. And this is kind of unsuccessful, but there it is. Enjoy the turkeys.